This is Lakshmi Chaudhry, the founder and editor of Splainer.in. In late February, Prime Minister Modi offered prayers at the underwater remains of Dwarka, the kingdom ruled by Krishna, or so many believe. There is indeed a city buried underwater off the coast of Gujarat. But is this the divine land described in the Mahabharata? Or are these remains of an ancient human settlement? Greatly respected archaeologists can't agree. Today, we're going to look at the archaeological claims surrounding India's lost Atlantis. Let's start with Dwarka itself. The mythical kingdom of Krishna is located in Gujarat, on the cusp of the Gomti River and the Arabian Sea. It is also home to the famous Lord Krishna temple, Dwarkadish. The temple is one of 4 sacred pilgrimage sites for Krishna devotees. Now, the Prime Minister dove underwater near an island called Dwarka. It is where underwater remains of an ancient city were first discovered in the 1980s. He went down to the seabed to perform a puja and said he had done darshan of the sacred land of Dwarka. Not everyone thinks that this is true. Now, this is not some kind of ugly Ram Mandir battle. There is no claim about a god's birthplace or any temple-destroying Mughal villain. There is clear archaeological evidence of ancient remains in Dwarka. But the remains of what? That is the highly contested question. According to the Mahabharata, Krishna raised Dwarka from the ocean to build his kingdom. When he ascended to heaven, 36 years after the end of the Kurukshetra war, the land was once again reclaimed by the waters. This is how Arjuna describes that cataclysmic event. The sea, which had been beating against the shores, suddenly broke the boundary that was imposed on it by nature. It rushed into the city, coursing through the beautiful city streets and covered up everything in the city. I saw the beautiful buildings become submerged one by one. In a matter of few moments, it was all over. The sea had now become placid as a lake. There was no trace of the city. Dwarka was just a name, just a memory. That's why Dwarka has most often been compared to the lost city of Atlantis, which too sank into the sea. But Atlantis was a myth made up by a Greek philosopher called Plato. No one knows where it is located, nor has there ever been any proof of its existence. However, there is clear and compelling evidence of ancient settlements off the coast of Gujarat. Dwarka is real, whether or not you believe it is the kingdom of Krishna. The search for Dwarka began in the 1930s, but the first sign of success was in 1963, when excavations revealed pots, shells, and glass bangles. These were dated between 1st century BC and 10th century CE. This was the first attempt by archaeologists to link the remains to the kingdom described in the Mahabharata. Until then, some historians had suggested that the city may have been located in Afghanistan. But the big breakthrough came in 1979-1980. That's when a respected marine archaeologist, Shikaripura Ranganath Rao, first uncovered the remains of a Vishnu temple. Dating back to the 9th century CE, it was located in the forecourt of the Dwarkadish temple. Rao would uncover 2 other temples, but the biggest discovery lay under the sea. Between 1983 and 1990, Rao's excavations led him to the island of Dwarka, and 50 feet below the water. That's where he found the remains of a lost city, with large bastions, fort walls, and gateways. Rao said he had found structures, 6 sectors, and fortified parts of the city that exactly matched the description of Dwarka in the Mahabharata. He also discovered a seal dating back to the Harappan era, back to the 16th or 17th century BCE. Rao insisted this was the same mudra seal required to enter the city of Dwarka in the Mahabharata. Okay, here's something important to note. No one contests the Harappan era origins of Rao's discovery. He was considered one of India's foremost experts of the ancient civilization. But many of his fellow scientists say the underwater city in Gujarat has no relation to the legendary kingdom. Rao's work, on the other hand, was infused by his faith. And he also declared that the submerged Dwarka proved that the man-god personality of Krishna is not a myth. True or not, Rao's remains were overshadowed within decades by a far more controversial discovery made in the nearby Gulf of Khambhat. Scientists on an expedition for the National Institute of Ocean Technology were performing a routine marine pollution check when they noticed something strange on the seafloor. The team wasn't able to send divers due to the lethal underwater tides in the region, so they conducted sonar scans which seemed to reveal astonishing wonders. They claimed to have seen an entire residential settlement with steps leading down to a great bath, and a temple with a pond. They claimed to have found the Acropolis of Harappan culture. Soon enough, the Minister of Science and Technology, Murli Manohar Joshi, called a press conference to make a big announcement. He declared that an underwater urban settlement that predated the Harappan civilization had been discovered in the Gulf of Khambhat. He said the remains were 9,500 years old. Now that's an astonishing claim, even greater than anything suggested by Rao, because it completely upends the story of human civilization. See, the first major urban settlements in the world are believed to be in Mesopotamia, dating back to 4000 to 3500 BC. These were followed by the Nile civilization in Egypt, think Great Pyramids, etc. And then 1000 years later, we get the Indus Valley civilization at around 2500 BC. If the remains in Khambhat date back to 7500 BC, they would be 2000 years older than all of them. That's a potentially huge discovery, the kind that would make nationalists very happy. Why? Because it would prove that civilization began in India. It was not brought to us by foreigners from West or Central Asia. Maybe the whole Aryan migration theory is all wrong. Maybe we took civilization to the rest of the world. But here's the problem. The entire claim about the timeline rested on a single piece of wood, which was carbon dated to 7500 BC. Now the wood may indeed be 9500 years old, but there is no proof that it is man-made. The so-called log could very well be part of an ancient tree. The government didn't help matters by refusing to allow international experts access to the evidence, or even Indian marine archaeologists like Rao, who, by the way, declared the evidence to be bunkum. The Indian scientific community mostly agrees that there is evidence in Khambhat of simple Neolithic settlements, but there is nothing approaching a civilization like the cities built by the Harappans. So whatever lies under the waters of Khambhat, it isn't Dwarka. So is the underwater city off the shores of Bet Dwarka really the kingdom of Krishna? Or are they the ancient remains of a lost Harappan era city? Who knows? But here's what we can all agree on. They are part of the wondrous story of Indian civilization. Thank you for joining us today. I'll be back with the next installment of our video explainers soon. Be sure to click on the link in the description for a free subscription to Splainer and download our app for the best experience.